Hey everybody, this is M.E. Thomas. I'm here with Dr. No. I'm going to ask Dr. No the question I ask everybody, which is Dr. No, what is it like to be you?
Hello. I'd say it's pretty normal being me. And how are you doing? Kind of avoid that question for now, I guess. No,
Like,
I'm just kidding. No, that's the whole point of the but yeah, no, I'd say right now things are a little bit chaotic, but normally yeah, I mean, I guess it's I don't have the biggest issues in the world or anything like that. So yeah, I was gonna actually flip that question onto you too, because it
okay.
seems like you get a lot of repeat questions. So at some point, if you want to answer that question, you can actually think about it.
Okay.
I'll give you
I'll
some
think
time
about
to
it.
think about it because I've had time to
Nice.
think about it.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty boring, I guess, most of the time.
Okay.
Do you have any questions about that or about what can I say? Because I'm not too sure.
I mean, you just say what you want to say.
Okay, because I don't like to be overly about myself, but okay. So yeah, I mean I'm 24, almost next month, uh from the Midwest, and pretty much my life has been pretty average so far, I guess you could say. Uh I mean, it's been eventful. I moved around the Midwest a lot, pretty much. Um, and right now, it feels like kind of existing in this existence, like kind of without a real sense some of the time. So yeah, I guess that's most people these days. Though there's a big epidemic with the mental health crisis these days, and a lot of people are having issues with finding therapists, psychiatrists, and stuff like that. Actually, it took me 2 years to actually see a counselor, and I'm really glad I did because I've now been for what 8 months now, and it's really benefiting me. Other than that,
Yeah, good job. I actually love to hear this because my girlfriend Aria is from the Midwest, and she says that like the reason why she started seeing her therapist is like I don't know if it was technically court ordered, but it was pretty close to court ordered. I think they thought, if she starts seeing a therapist, she before her sentencing or something, then she has like a greater likelihood of, a good sentencing. Um so, but she says all the
it's
time,
wonderful.
that like they're in the Midwest, she says that like somebody will drive a motorcycle without a helmet and then, get in a crash and die. And that people will be like, there was just no way we could have predicted that could happen. Unfortunately, there was just nothing that could have been done. And she says that she knows like several people who have committed suicide in kind of similar ways, like the parents are on vacation and, the son comes over to the house and commits suicide in his childhood bedroom or something, and people are like, there's no way we could have predicted it, even though the guy was like, severely depressed for like the last 4 years or something. And she says there's kind of a stigma against seeing therapists, against like seeking help for like mental health issues in the Midwest that maybe contributes to this, and it may contribute to substance abuse as well. People, instead of seeing a therapist, might kind of choose to self-medicate instead.
Exactly, it is way easier in a lot of people's eyes to go to that option of just self-medicating because it's available, it's there, and it makes you feel good.
Yeah, and she
Well,
says
that's the
it's
thing.
like really normalized too. She says that, like everybody kind of does that, and that's even kind of what they think of as like the normal good thing to do. Like if you're feeling a little down, like just go to your favorite local neighborhood bar and, hang out and get pretty drunk or something. That's like considered the smart thing or like the right thing to do in those situations by a lot of people.
You know what? I mean, it's interesting because I don't know. I do feel like there's a lot of people that are like religious to like the same like spot drinking spot they go to. So
Mhm.
that's kind of like their church, you know what I mean?
Yes, yeah, and it's like the TV show Cheers or whatever. I grew up watching it. You probably don't even know what that is. But yeah, where they like sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name.
I've heard
You know
the
that
Cheers
uh,
songs.
uh-huh. But,
Yeah.
like, yeah, you're, like, welcomed. It's yeah, it is kind of like a church, especially I'd rather that these people be going to, like, a bar. My personal preference probably doesn't matter to them, but my personal preference is that I'm glad that they're going to a bar rather than doing things like get further isolated and then, blow up and do something like commit suicide or, other types of really kind of like, um like going to a bar is not the best thing, but like suicide is like irreversible. There's certain things I guess that are worse than others. And
Yeah,
so
that's
I
kind of like like your last thing, you know, like you
yeah.
only have you only have one shot to like kill yourself. So it's like
Yeah,
after
so
that.
I always hope people exhaust all of their other options before they kind of turn to that. It is interesting though, the didn't this just happen? Who's that guy who where was it? In Kentucky, where he had kinda had, like, concussions, multiple concussions, and then he went to the bank where he worked and then shot a bunch of people, but it was, I guess, basically a suicide attempt, but,
Oh
while
shit.
he
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
while he
right.
yeah. Mhm. You
Yeah,
wonder about
I
things
mean,
like this. I feel badly for men too. Because I feel like there's more pressure on them to kind of be normal for whatever reason, whatever pressure like competing for work or competing for, in the dating world or competing amongst each other. Men are so competitive. Like I have a in church right now, I have a job, they call it a calling, just like a church job where I like, do activities with, the church babies, the children's, uh,
uh,
and like if I don't put like some degree of competition in the activities, then the boys are just totally checked out. They don't care. They could care less about, like singing songs about Jesus,
oh
basically.
yeah, yeah.
And
I
if
mean,
I
you have
put
to keep
too
the kids
much
engaged.
Yes, if I put too much competition in, then the girls are checked out. They're kind of like, because they can be really young, like 6 or 7 or something. So they're not there to kind of like, be hyper competitive like the 6-year-old boys are. So it's just interesting to kind of see like what keeps them engaged and like good for them, but that must be a little bit hard after decades of living that way with, like, other boys, like, where it's just constantly a competition amongst you, and I've been watching the movie Risky Business with Tom Cruise. Have you ever seen it?
I have not, but
Yeah. It came out
uh,
way before you were born. It even came out just shortly after I was born, but I've been watching it and, it takes place in the '80s, and he's, like, in high school. He's super young, and, they kind of, like, keep ragging on him for, like, not having sex enough or whatever, and I just think, "Man, boys are
uh-huh.
kinda toxic with each other."
Oh yeah, instead of being supportive, right?
Yeah,
But I also feel like
exactly.
girls are just kind of like women can be kind of really you know, backstabbing and like
Mhm.
cutthroat in a way that
Yes.
men could never really be. And I don't know if I'd rather deal with the guy like outwardly, you know, wanting to punch me in the face or like going behind my back and ruining my life. Like
Yeah.
rather you beat my ass. But
Yeah. Yeah, because everybody can kinda see that, and there's some honor to it. Yeah, I agree with this. There's a trend that I see on social media, especially amongst, like, certain kind of, like, demographics, I guess, where there's, like, a lot of blame on women trying to like steal other people's men or something. And I'm like, can people just like live their lives without accusations that they're out trying to steal people's men? Like if your
Holy.
man is like looking, isn't that the problem of his problem? It's not the problem of women looking good, I guess, out on the street. Like they're too you hate them because they're too big of a temptation that, your man's gonna like can't help himself or something. I just feel like stuff like that is weird. Like it's like I don't see the logic
Exactly.
of it, but they're like really self-assured about it. They're like, no, this is the root of the problem. My
Yeah.
man would be a happy at home and except for these women.
Well, I mean, you'd
Uh,
think that they would be happy that at least they have someone that's like, desired, I guess. I mean, but touching back on what you said about like men being very defensive about a lot of things, like I definitely agree with that. But I also would like to say that I don't really like engage in that kind of behavior anymore where I am surrounded by people who are going to drag me into that sort of situation. Thank God. It's a lot easier to start putting the people around you that are trying to make positive change in your life instead of people that are constantly going to drag you back into the mud, honestly. And I don't know. That's my thought on that.
yeah, good for
But
you. I love to hear this. Well, now, yeah, I have two good for yous for you for doing that, making that healthy change, and then working so hard to get to see the therapist. Proud of you.
oh no, it's okay. No, I do appreciate that, but yeah, therapy is it's weird. It's weird. I don't know, man. But it's definitely I feel like it's definitely actually really beneficial to not just the person who is getting the treatment though, but also to those who maybe are around that person and can't really like make the decision like, okay, uh I should go and see the counselor and start working on my issues that I can't really talk about, or I'm having these issues. And it seems like they're definitely the stigma is starting to get unraveled a little bit, which is really comforting to see. But there's still ways to go because, like, I mean, you look at all the violence that's still going on these days, like, especially recently. It's just like, yeah. So
Yeah,
the
my
therapy is
girlfriend
very
calls
important.
it, yeah, The Purge. Do you know that movie, The Purge?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
That's what she said. She's like, "Well, nowadays, like, now that we live in the purge," and she kinda means that you could go to, like, I don't know, like a theme park or something, and then maybe end up stabbed, because people are just acting a little, wilding out, is what she always says. They're wilding out.
Dude, I love that movie though. I mean, I got the first one especially, but yeah. uh,
Is it c technically considered horror, or is it like a science fiction genre, maybe?
I honestly, it must be like some sort of horror, right? Like,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I do have a question for you though. I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you, I've actually been hearing a lot of people bring up things about like psychedelics and treatment for like major depressive disorders and things like that. And I just
Mhm.
thought it would be interesting to hear what you might have to say on that because I did actually just read a study. I think what was this research study or whatever that was published, and it was going into it about the long term effects of LSD
Mm. Mhm.
in someone with major depressive and uh, complex personality disorder, some stuff like that, and it was proving to be effective actually. So do you think that could be something that they could integrate into the world? Do you think that would make a difference?
So first of all, like uh I won't tell I don't even remember the stock, but I do own stocks in like Magic Mushroom, a Magic Mushroom company for basically this reason that I think that the promise is huge. That I think that, we've been using SSRIs, for instance, with depression for decades now. And some people were really helped by it, but there's been a bunch of recent studies that kind of suggest that for most people, it's not better than a placebo effect. And a placebo effect itself is great, and then but they have side effects, some pretty bad side effects. So it's kind of becoming more of a question about whether it's a good idea to give people a prescription for some of these antidepressants, whereas before it seemed like they were just handing them out like, well, it can't hurt type things. But some people have bad reactions to antidepressants. I've known people who have gotten, some of the bad side effects, psychological side effects, and it's crazy because they're always like, if you start having suicidal ideations on, Wellbutrin, then stop taking it or whatever. And you're like, well, how would an antidepressant make you suicidal?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like the side effects can be crazy. You have to really kind of watch them.
Well, aren't
And
you taking it to, I mean, aren't you already going to be like kind of suicidal though? I mean, taking it. So how do you know if you're suicidal because of the medication or because you're depressed? So are you going to know to get different medication if you're still suicidal? Like, I've never really
yes.
understood like because I take an antidepressant,
Hmm.
but I mean, I will say that, but I'm not going to go into like specifics of all that, but I mean, and I noticed there's definitely like improvements in certain aspects of my life, but it seems like that it definitely has its disadvantages and areas like I get really nauseous and I don't know, for some people it's just specific things. Sometimes people take them and they're just like, yeah, I don't have any issue at all with this. I'm good. But
Yes.
sometimes people are just like, yeah, I don't know.
And I don't want to be down on them at all. Like I think that they can be life-saving, and that if you
Absolutely,
have
yeah, absolutely.
yeah, if you get if like Wellbutrin's not for you, try Prozac. If Prozac's not for you, try Abilify. You can they're like a dozen or something, and they're each different kind of they essentially do the same thing, but they're each different chemical whatever makeup or something. And so something that might agree with you better and, than another thing. So I always say, live your life, get on meds, do whatever you can. And just keep trying different meds. If one thing doesn't work for you, then try another thing. But I do think that there is crazy promise to like the magic mushroom industry specifically. I'm not as sure. I haven't like heard that much about LSD. The other thing that I've heard about though is what is the like frog one, the psychedelic frog one?
That's 5-MeO DMT.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Uh-huh. Yes. So this one,
It's from the
DMT.
Colorado toad. Yeah,
Yes.
Colorado
So
toad.
I've talked to some people. So I should say this, that one of the people that I've talked to, Victoria, in fact, and I think she's talks about this in one of her videos. Uh took magic mushrooms, and is psychopathic identifying, and she took magic mushrooms, and her experience of it was that she felt that um she finally felt like one with humanity, like felt like a connection to other people. And building upon, after she felt that connection to other people, it was easier to kind of like release some of her other kind of psychopathic behaviors with regard to other people. So she found it to be like very healing, the whole experience. And maybe I'll try to get like some details from her about like the specific dose, because she has like a whole like, it needs to be this dose at this time or whatever. She has a whole kind of thought about it. And then I talked to this other person who's kind of a similar experience, said that it I think used the term it melts psychopathy, and that was with the DMT, the toad stuff. And he said for similar reason that he suddenly felt like he was outside of himself in a way that he had never accomplished before, and that he, in being outside of himself, was able to get a different perspective about his role in the world and about other people too. And so he was able to see, hey, we're all so similar. We're much more similar than we are dissimilar kind of attitude. And that kind of like opened his mind too, to kind of melting psychopathy. And I talked to another guy who
Exactly, though. I mean, just
yes,
very connected. I totally, and that's the big thing with it, is
yeah.
it very much connects you. But I'll let you go on to what you were going to say.
Yeah, the other guy is a really interesting guy because he was like an army ranger sniper, and had done kind of who knows how many, because I guess when you're like normal infantry, this is just my guess. Maybe I'm wrong. You're shooting people, but most of the time you don't know for sure they're dead, or you're not for sure that it
Yeah,
was your shot. But a sniper, like he knows how many people he's killed, you know and based on somebody else being like, "Take the shot," like, it's usually not him, giving, like, the kill warning or the kill order, I guess I should say. So that's kinda some heavy stuff, and he's a psychopath, but even with his psychopathy, I think he still was, like, experiencing, he was troubled by the whole thing. So then he started going down kind of like psychedelics, and he kind of said like similar things, that it was like really helpful. So I do think that it's helpful. It doesn't seem to work for everybody, I guess, because Victoria said that she like crazy dosed her mom on magic mushrooms, and like the mom like did not react at all. Like she was like, Victoria said, like a big waste of money.
and I was going to bring that up. That is a very important point too. Uh, Dosing your, like, using it in a safe and like responsible way for like an effective treatment plan, I feel like would be the key to that, especially
Hmm.
like there's a big thing, microdosing is a big
Yeah.
thing people do, and I mean, I've heard nothing but good things when it comes to that. I mean, I know that obviously you shouldn't take, like 3 hits of acid and try to go to work, drive your car. But I mean, I can see how the benefits are there, because it definitely, and like you were saying with the Green Beret, right? He was, or the Ranger, the
Mhm.
sniper.
Yeah.
I can only imagine how the relief that it probably felt for him when he was able to actually get outside of his, like, his body, taking the psychedelics and experiencing that, because he was probably very isolated and trapped, I'm sure.
Yes, yes. Um,
Psychedelics are amazing at that. They're amazing at pulling you out of it and showing you, like, you're laying your life out in front of you. I feel like whenever I have taken them in the past, that's always been the benefit for me, is the enlightenment. But I never wanted to constantly go back and get back into that, because it seems like it could damage you. It really could
yes.
damage you if you abuse it. So be careful, be responsible with it, obviously. Psychedelics are no
Yes.
joke. Anyone listening, please be careful.
Yes. Good. I love this. There's something else I was gonna say about, I guess they call them psychonauts, like an astronaut, but a psychonaut, the people who kind of like uh take mind altering, consciousness altering drugs to kind of explore themselves and explore the world. I think it's a really interesting concept, and I think people have had a lot of success. It is like tricky. I can see why the road is not smooth paved in terms of being able to like reliably get, a doctor to prescribe you like magic mushrooms or something in order to treat these things, because people were not really sure what's happening and why it works with some people in a particular way, and why it doesn't work with other people in a particular ways. And because it's not something really that you could patent, I don't think, maybe there's not the same amount of funding that could go into doing, the numbers of like research trials that they would need in order to get it kind of approved by most of the, like in the United States, the Food and Drug Administration and the
Exactly. I was
other,
just gonna
yeah.
say the
Mhm.
FDA is a big thing. Not only that, but I mean, they're pretty much everything you're saying. Yes.
Mhm. Yes. Yeah, so that's interesting. So you've done it before and you've had like some really good results from it?
Well, I mean, myself, yeah. I mean, I haven't for quite some time, but I would say, um, I mean, it's a great tool to work through unresolved trauma. It might be a good option for you if you have gone through a really extreme experience in the past and that you feel like that might be kind of lagging you behind. I mean, that's for me, that's at least why I tried it.
Hmm.
Um, and it really did help me out, kind of move past that mental block. But like, I mean, also that first time I took it, there was a chick there and she did not have a good experience. And so just be careful. That's
Yeah, be careful as oh, I remember what I was gonna say. I guess like a bunch of Silicon Valley uh tech people microdose, and it's to kind of get, keep their mind open to things, to not be kind of rigid or kind of get in like one paradigm, but be able to shift paradigms more easily. And it seems like that is what it it does best, these psychedelics, these, mind-altering drugs, is that it's somehow able to kinda, like, bump you out of the groove that you're like a broken record, you're stuck in that kind of groove, and it's able to just kind of give you enough of a bump that you're able to, get out of that one paradigm and possibly in another paradigm, or hopefully be able to see that there are multiple paradigms that you could be in. Does that
yes,
sound right?
yes, yes. I think that I think that I think that your experience can vary obviously depending on like what you take, but I mean, and obviously, if you've had the experience before, can have a role in it. I mean, and it can change your life for sure. Uh, and it has changed people's lives. I think I've seen it change people's lives.
I think I lost you.